What's up my loves, my name is Paige, this is Paige with Paige, and today we're going to be doing my stats for quarter 3. Hello my darlings, so welcome to this video. Today I'm going to be talking through the stats of quarter 3. I have broken this down into the actual statistics for quarter 3 themselves. I do have some points of comparison for the overall year, but I thought for this quarter it would be good to actually break it down and look at the quarter itself and see the percentages of the overall year so far, and then we'll see how this shapes for the end of the year. I've just got a few stats that I want to go over. I don't think this is going to be an overly long video, and I'm not going to compare to 2022. My brain just couldn't compute. So I'll just go over my usual stats that I go in my wrap up, but I won't go break down month by month because those are in my wrap up. First stat is my books read. I read 43 books in quarter 3 out of 129 books. So that's 33%, third of my reading. My pages read, I read 14,953 out of 43,574, which is 34% of my pages read, and I had my biggest reading month in August with 6,420 pages. I listened to 35% of my total hours, which worked out to be 128 hours. I read 34 of my owned books, I reread 2 books, and I acquired 14 books. 5 of which are read, 9 of which are not. I do have the comparison stat in quarter 3 of 2022. I had acquired 43 books. Mind blowing. And I know that I mentioned previously, I'm not sure which video it was, that I was very disheartened with the amount of representation that I was doing in my book buy. And I just want to record for myself because I'm really chuffed at the shift. 71% of those 14 books had some form of representation, whether that be BIPOC, LGBT, or disability rep. My overall rep stat has gone up from 21% to 49%, which I'm so proud of. I've almost cracked the halfway mark. If I didn't buy Rouge in September, it would be at the 50%. Can't be helped. I do really want to get to Rouge, so I'm not mad at it, but I have been making more of an active effort to pick up diverse. In terms of format, my biggest 2 was 26 of the 43 books being physical and audio book combination, which is 64.5% of those reads, and 11 physical books, which is very different because for the past 2 quarters, I had read collectively 13 in the first half of the year, and then 11 just in quarter 3 alone. Thank you to Suffer-a-thon and the amazing Readathon for getting me to pick up books that don't have audiobooks, manga, and graphic novels. 5 out of those 11 were Giant Days graphic novels. For my audience, I had new adult and young adult as 25.6% each of quarter 3 reads. And 11 out of the 12 new adult reads of the year were in quarter 3. I think I found my comfortability level for what I want to classify as new adult, and Serious Moonlight reads very young adult, but for me it is that new adult era because she is 18 and finding herself and finding out about life. Most would argue that it's YA because it is so young, but I feel like it was looking, when getting past the naivety of the character, they are new adults. So that's where my classification is leaning towards. Where I sourced my reads from, 79.1% was from my own TBR, and I had read 8 library books, 5 of those, again, are Giant Days graphic novels. So thank you Suffer-a-thon, and thank you Ren. In terms of listened via, Libby was definitely my dominant now that I don't have Animorphs in my other category, which was for Hoopla. But half my total of Scribd for the year were in this quarter. So I'm picking back up on my Scribd game. I think because they finally put 3 times speed on their app and the audio isn't warped when you listen to it on that speed. Well, it's not as badly warped as it was previously. So I'm actually able to get back into it, which is surprising because I didn't think I was going to go back to Scribd. And then my series stats for this quarter. Whoops. 32.6% of these reads were standalones. 14 books. I have a tendency to clump these together when working on goals and finishing off or beginning readathons. So there was 4 for Gerbertathon at the beginning of July, 3 at the end for Amazing Readathon, Magical Readathon, and a few of my book haul revisits were also thrown into that mix, as I'm trying to get through most of those, and I think most of my 2020 remaining are now standalones. In terms of series started, 8 out of the 13 series I've started this year were in this quarter. Shit. One is already completed, which is great. I read the entire thing in this quarter, and one is started but caught up for the remainder of this year. Katie Roberts' new series. The second one's not coming out until 2024. So that's caught up, which is nice. But I did read 14 continuations of series. I caught up on 2 series I had started prior to this quarter, and I finished off 5 series. One of those I did start in this quarter. So I'm absolutely thrilled at where we're going. This year, I think I've finished off 12 series, and 5 of them were in this quarter alone. So I'm very happy with that and happy to just keep checking away at it. So I'm feeling proud. I might have started a lot, but we're getting there. We're getting there. I just realized that I started the same amount as I finished and or caught up with. Why am I like this? Also, why am I like this is page range. So for this, I had 16 books that were under 300 pages. I'm trying to veer away. I just want to sit between the 300 to 500 page mark. 300 to 499 is where I want to be. It didn't happen. I needed to finish shit off. I needed to read some small shit for readathons. So that's okay. But it's like, now that I'm done with the Animorphs, I don't have any excuses. But I did read 17 between 300 and 499 pages. So very happy with that. And 10 books between 500 and 899 pages. I did read a lot of big books, especially for the fact that I wanted to read 12 for the year overall, and the stretch goal of 24, meaning I only needed to read 2 a month, but I read 10. I read 4 extra big books than my goal. I'm thrilled. I want to reduce the amount of small books and lean more towards 300 plus pages. Ratings. I had a very good quarter with almost 50% of my reads from this quarter being 5 stars. I did not have many low rated readings for this quarter. I think also in the fact that I'm actually starting to get pickier with my ratings, and that was definitely prevalent in the first 2 months of the year. For this one, there was definitely ones that I could teeter on lowering, but because they've got special places in my heart and stuff like that, it remained at the 5 star. I was also picking up from favorite authors more and just going for things that I wanted to read. I also had so many surprises. In terms of genre, finally, fantasy was at 24 of my reads and only 1 sci-fi. Animorphs, you are no longer ruining my stats. I had 6 graphic novels, which was very unusual for me. Again, thank you, Ren. 4 contemporaries, 2 horrors, 3 non-fiction, 1 thriller, and 1 erotica. And 1 historical. Overall, this year, fantasy is back and loud at 41.1% of my reads being it, and sci-fi sitting at a delightful 18.6%. So it is very refreshing to not have Animorphs drastically skewing my stats. I'm gonna quickly just have on the screen the middle grade comparison between this time last year and now's. I don't have that stat to hand, I didn't think, but I now want to see what it is, so I'm gonna make that. In terms of publication date, I mostly kept to the 2000s, which is normal for me, but I didn't realize 11 books out of my 43 were published in 2020. 9 between 2021 and 2023, and 13 between 2017 to 2019, and sprinkling backwards. Keeping it most to the 2017 to now. I just want to talk through my best, worst, and most surprising books. My best books are What You Were Looking For Is in the Library by Mikito Aoyama, which just hit so deep in my core. Ring Shout by P. Jelly Clark. I knew that I was going to love it, but I was not prepared for the exceptional writing, messages, and presentation. It was just amazing. And The Strange Case of the Alchemist's Daughter by Theodora Goss. I knew this place, it was going to sit in my heart, and I'm just so happy to have read this series. My worst book was The Wind-Up Girl by Paolo Balagulupci, which was 3 stars. It just wasn't the right vibes for me. And I think I'm starting to learn if it's a book that I can see the merit for, but it's just not what I want to pick up. But my friend absolutely adored The Wind-Up Girl. I was taking it at his recommendation. I can totally see why he loved it. It just wasn't the right vibes for me. And then my most surprising was The Wisdom of Tea by Noriko Morishita, which is also in one of my best books. What You Were Looking For in the Library just hit punches, but it didn't surprise me in the way of how much I loved it. It definitely was like, oh, okay. But The Wisdom of Tea, everything about it, I was expecting to not necessarily vibe with. I thought it was going to be more about the actual process of tea rather than the wisdom. Obviously the title is The Wisdom of Tea, but I thought it was wising you up about how to make good tea, not philosophical underpinnings that are going to destroy my soul. And then Hangman by Jack Heath. I ended up really adoring this, and I didn't know what to expect walking in. I kept forgetting about the fact that he's a cannibal, and we were just there for a ride. And it was a ride. So thank you, Crystal, for putting that one in my hands. I'm very, very happy to have picked it up. So that's my overview for quarter 3. I really like being able to just take these little sections and have a look at them in their own bubble. Still doing some comparison to previous years and the rest of the year that's already passed. But it was fun. I like seeing that 33% of my reads came from here, 34% of my pages, and 35% of my hours listened. So it's just interesting for me to see these things and how my reading is shaped by different events that I'm doing and my own personal goals. I do have a video talking through all my goals. It's not too in detail, but obviously I have a lot of goals, so I talk. It was just really interesting doing it this way. I will just do a year wrap up in January of all of my stats for this year when we get there, and it hurts me that that is getting progressively closer at a rapid pace. Radio. Anyway, let me know in the comments, do you have any stats for your reading so far, or in particular quarter 3? I'd be curious to know what you sort of can easily pull and or find it interesting to hear about. Is there any stats that you would like me to talk about in further detail? I'm so happy with how this quarter looks. And I think that was what I was missing from my reading for the first half of the year. It was being able to look back and go, holy shit. I'm just very chuffed with myself and going to keep chugging away at my reading and enjoy hopefully everything I get to pick up. I'm also, in terms of like my ratings, I know that I have an author bias. That's fine. I'm not shy about that. But it's also, I really know what works for me. And I don't want to pick up shit that's not going to work for me. So I don't. I know that Ash and I have very interesting conversations about my rating and how I approach it, and if you would like to hear one of those discussions, more than happy to dive into that in a bit more detail and have Ash here to be able to, like, you know, rationalize shit, because she's just an emotive little bitch. But let me know in the comments anything you want to let me know on those ideas, on your stats, anything and everything. I'd love to hear it. If you like this video, feel free to give it a big thumbs up. And if you'd like to see more of this mess, feel free to subscribe. I'll hopefully see you in my next video. Bye!